I already told.
I'll forward the information to Brett.
Oh, these are laminated.
No.
I know, I'm like, wow.
Photo paper.
I'm very proud of that.
Suitable for framing.
Is this just one, or am I supposed to pass
This is
down?
one.
Okay.
I was probably.
We're gonna need a budget amendment for committee next meeting because of this.
I don't know how big of a ream of photo paper the police department had. We missed the 12 sheets right now.
I think that's very kind. I like the paper.
He has a detective working on it right now.
Already creeping.
I think I just confessed, but.
They'll confirm. All right, 6 p.m. We'll call this regular village meeting to order. If you'd all please join me in a moment of silence. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, if you take the roll.
Trustee Nice. Here. Trustee Try. Here. Trustee Ferguson.
Present.
Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Gerger. Trustee Gerger is dialed in. Did we hear from
Be
him?
like,
Are you still there?
We're gonna need,
He's got it.
make a motion.
We'll get it.
Nope.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Hung up.
Okay. Trustee Fletcher. Village President Kimsey.
Present. We're trying to bring. Are there any public announcements this evening? Hearing none. Any public comments on agenda topics? Hearing none. We'll see if we get an answer here.
I'm unable to take your call. Please leave your name and number.
All right, we'll see if he calls you back, Pat. We'll bring him in. If not, no old business. Item 1 under new business is a MFT Resolution 5122 for maintenance supplement. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor, please?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Nice made a motion, second by Trustee Charo. This is one of 2 supplemental maintenance resolutions that we discussed regarding the bids that Jim received on our 2 projects. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Item 2 is MFT Resolution 5222 for supplemental resolution. Can I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Try. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Nice. Same as the other, just different number. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Item 3 is a resolution releasing a letter of credit for Manor Hill 2 subdivision. Can I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Ferguson has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. This releases letter of credit number 541 from Illinois Bank. Any further discussion?
There's actually 2 of them.
2 letters?
If you look at the attached letter.
Yes, 2 letters. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try.
Yes.
Item 4 is an ordinance approving pre-annexation agreement. Have a motion to bring this to the floor, please.
I'll make that motion.
Brett is trying to call in, so
Scott, tell him to answer the Pat's number.
okay, I'll text him and tell him to. Oh, yeah.
I'm unable to take your call. Please leave your name and number.
All right, do we have a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charo has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Chai has made a second. Discussion. It is a total of three, correct? McGohan,
Various
Ramsey.
parts of- in various parts of Chatham. One's on the frontage road, one's on West Walnut, and one is out
We just call you.
in rural west near, Map Road, I think.
Brett's saying that your call's not coming through.
Well, put him on, you answer it, and then move your microphone down and put your phone on speaker, okay?
Okay.
If he's trying to call you.
Hey, Brett, you're gonna be on mine now. So you're present.
Hold on.
Okay,
We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion regarding pre-annexation agreements? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try. Yes.
Now, do I have a motion to allow Trustee Gerger to? We have a motion to allow Trustee Gerger to participate remotely.
I'll make the motion to allow Trustee Gerger to call in.
Trustee Nice made a motion, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Charo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, Trustee Gerger is now present.
Noted.
So yeah, can you
I-
hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Item 5 is a resolution approving a leak adjustment for 26 Pheasant Run Drive. Could I have a motion, please? We have a motion to bring this to the floor?
Make a motion.
Trustee Ferguson's made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Trustee Nice.
I thought Brett wanted to do.
Discussion?
Where's Brett?
You hear us, Brett?
So I'd like to start because I received several phone calls on this today and drafted the resolution that's on the floor. This resolution approves a leak adjustment. This is the first resolution of this type that I've drafted and that we've done since this ordinance came into place in 2016. Section 50.120 of the Village Code is clear that if a water leak adjustment is available for most leaks, the village will, or for all leaks, for water charges, the village is allowed to do 50% credit. The way the ordinance is written is subsection A gives 3 criteria, and if those criteria are met, then subsection B provides the calculation for the water leak adjustment. And the code is clear that if you meet the criteria in subsection A, you get a 50% credit under subsection B for your water charges. The sewer charges go to different governing bodies that are not a part of the village. The village controls the water charges. So the resolution that I've drafted would be contrary to the ordinance that was passed in 2016 because the resolution is presented to the board today actually gives a 100% water leak credit. So I wanted to be clear about what the law was and what the resolution actually does and what you are presented with today. And I'm happy to answer any further questions, but I did want to clarify because I received several questions.
So we can only offer the 50% outlined in the resolution.
Right. Well, not
The
the
ordinance.
right. The ordinance is drafted only allows for 50% credit.
And the village staff deemed that it did qualify for that 50%
So,
credit.
Meredith, can I talk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So just to give some background, I don't know anybody, apparently the minutes don't reflect what our meetings did, and that's on us as a committee that we didn't approve the minutes correctly, but nobody would come to us and ask for 50% when they were already offered 50%. And that's what people came before us for. We thought we were approving 100%. Whenever, the couple of cases that came before us. Now, it's my understanding that the one individual that came before us, we didn't have a quorum, so it didn't count. But our intent was to give 100%. And then another individual came before us, and we thought we were giving 100%, but God says it was the 50% amount. I don't know why anybody would come before us and dispute when they were offered for 50%, and that's all that we were given. I've talked to all the committee members that sat on those boards, and all think that we gave 100%. Now, the minutes may not reflect it, but that's what we all did, and that's why we did it in this case. And I don't know why you're coming for the utility commission unless you were arguing that it wasn't a leak or that, but that's not. All these people came before us because they weren't happy with the amount. And so much so that the one person, when we didn't have the quorum, he went to the Sangamon County sewer based on our recommendation to try to get that, and he got it at 100%. I don't know how he did, because they always turn everybody else down. But he went and did that off of that. But that was our intent. And so that's why I voted, and that's why we had the discussions at the committee. We all understood that we had done 100% before, but apparently that's not the case according to the minutes when it says the amounts. So that's where we're at. I can tell you everybody that sat on that committee thought we were approving 100% because they only got one shot at it. You get it once every 3 years. And we told this Judd, if you want to do $69 and you have a bad leak next year, you can't claim it again. And she was understood that. So that's where we're at.
And that,
So also, as far as not following ordinances, we had somebody go without paying electric for 11 years, and we didn't follow the ordinance. We gave them 1 year, not 2 years. We made them pay 1 year, not 2 years. So it's not like we haven't had a history of not following ordinances.
so the
And that's-
3 years,
sorry.
just to be clear on the 3-year thing, is if you take a leak adjustment, period.
Correct.
The 50%, that's what's written in there, is it is available once every 3 years. So, any further discussion or questions for Greg?
I found the ordinance to do that. Even in the ordinance on this one, it doesn't say anything about coming in front of the utility board amendment.
Right.
So,
Provided through the hand.
so if we want to, if we're saying that this ordinance is the one that takes away our ability as a utility board, he hung up. If this takes away our right to do more than 50%, this ordinance doesn't cover the utility board. So is there a separate ordinance that covers what the utility board can do?
So this ordinance, the utility board can only do what it's authorized to do by the village. So it's not like it has powers that need to be limited by the ordinance or by the code. It only gets powers that are granted through the code or through the handbook. So what the code says is the village is allowed to provide this procedure. And through our handbook, we explain in further detail what the procedure is. And so the procedure is that an individual can go to village staff and say, I think that I had a leak and I want a water bill adjustment. And village staff can give a thumbs up or thumbs down at the 50% mark. And they look at, in the ordinance, they look at 1, 2, and 3 under subsection A. And if those are checked, then the village has its worksheet and it comes down to the 50%. It calculates the amount that should be refunded. And I think that the Utility Oversight Committee sees that calculation sheet. If the staff were to say, for example, under subsection 2, you didn't repair your leak timely, we notified you, and although you called a plumber within 10 days, it wasn't repaired for 40 days, so we're not going to give you any leak adjustment. That could be appealed to our Utility Oversight Committee meeting, which then reviews which would review the denial and then say, wait a minute, what the rules really say is, you couldn't get a plumber out, but everybody was scheduling, 40 days out. So it's not your fault. So we think that the staff was wrong, and we think you should get this 50%. And that procedure is not set forth in the ordinance, but it's set forth in our customer service handbook. And so that's the procedure as conceived by the village. But there's no authority in the ordinance, and the ordinance would trump our policy or procedure manual, there's no authority in the ordinance to go above the 50%.
But there's no authority given to the utility board anywhere in that ordinance.
Not in the ordinance.
So if we, and this is a great explanation for me to understand. So according to the ordinance, we should have never even heard it.
Well, I would disagree with that, and we're going to get.
Hold on, I'd like to clarify that exact point. Section A, clearly it says, in Section A, after the village office receives the leak adjustment, request and resolution cannot be determined. The request will be forwarded to the Utility Oversight Committee for approval or denial at their next scheduled meeting. Meaning, if one of those 4 items is in disagreement between the utility department and the village member, then that should go to the board, to the committee. However, this went to the committee after they had already come to an agreement that she did qualify. It was just a disagreement about the amount. Why did it ever go to the committee?
So you're on the actual procedure, the manual, right?
I'm looking at the manual right here, yeah.
Okay, so that's what our manual says, and that's the procedure that was set forth. Now, there was, I guess, we viewed it as, since there was a dispute, not to whether or not they qualify, but a dispute as to the amount, it went to the oversight committee. That's the procedure.
It probably shouldn't have ever went there, though, based on the way we have the manual written, correct?
Well, based on the way the ordinance is, it shouldn't have come to us.
Okay, so I'm going to address her first, and then I'm going to get to you,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, because I think it clarifies a lot. So this ordinance, the section 50.120 of the village code, that ordinance sets forth this procedure, and it doesn't say that. But we did pass an ordinance, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, an ordinance adopting the language in the customer service manual. And that ordinance that was passed by the board, that document gives the authority to the Utility Oversight Committee that is in the manual that you just read. So that's where the utility oversight, that ordinance is where the village board granted the Utility Oversight Committee the authority that it was exercising in this case. Now, the way our section 50.120 is written, there should never be a dispute as to the amount because it's 50%. There's no authority for Pat or for staff to recommend a 30% adjustment. There's no authority to recommend a 70% adjustment. The way 50.120 is written, it is 0 or 50%. Now, in this case, we had a unique situation where there was a dispute as to the amount, which is not provided for in our code. It was sent to the Utility Oversight Committee, and they made a recommendation that would be against section 50.120, and I would have the same opinion if they said, yeah, you know what, the 3 criteria were met, but we want to give a 25% reduction. It's the same to me, and I have the same opinion. It's 50% or 0%. And so we had this dispute, which is why they went to them, which is why I had to craft a new resolution that's never been presented to the village before, because we've never done this before. We've never had this question before, and that's why the board is presented with a unique position and a unique vote this evening.
Yeah, I understand everything you said, but I'm still stuck on, so basically we didn't have a decision to make that night. Because, basically we didn't have a decision to make that night, so it shouldn't have come in front of us.
You could have concurred with the offer that was made by the village.
But it wouldn't matter because that's the only answer, and if you only have one answer to that question, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm just saying, and when we
You're probably right. It wasn't a necessary meeting, but you had a discussion about it because somebody wanted to further.
right, but I'm just saying, but we couldn't make any decisions then because we didn't have choices on that. Well, we had a choice to concur or not to concur, but we all thought we had the decision to make 100%
We
based
thought we
on.
could adjust the
And-
amount.
Yeah.
And Meredith, on the piece of paper, it shows what the proposed credit was.
Yeah.
And in each instance that the board had voted in the past, that credit is what they got. So if you saw that at the bottom and you were expecting 100%, that number at the bottom was 100% of that number at the bottom of the page. That's what the credit was offered. That's 50% of the
Right.
overall usage, but it was 100% of the offer that was made at the time.
Well, basically it was 50% of the difference. So I know what you're saying. I didn't get confused on that because that was the total amount, because we had discussions of whether to double that amount, to put that in ordinance or not. So we had discussions on that. So yeah, I see what you're saying, but yeah. But that's the reason why I voted on thinking that we had the right to do it and we had done it in the past.
So the reason there's an ordinance is because it's going, or a resolution tonight is because it's going outside of the established parameters.
But I
Couldn't
would,
find an instance where
yeah.
we've had to vote like this before.
I would say, no matter what we do tonight, we need to amend that ordinance at some point in time and put in there to qualify what leeway we have as a utility board on that. So there's not any further communication, because it's saying that basically this is the ultimate rule, but then it sends it back to this, and then this sends it back to that. So if we're gonna have language in here limiting the utility board in the handbook, I would think that language needs to be put in ordinance too, and not just the handbook.
But it kind of addresses it, because you have to meet those three criteria to get to that point. In previous times, when the village had a mismatch meter with a mismatch ERT on top, and that was our fault, it didn't meet all three of those criteria. So that's why we didn't offer 50. And when those people came in and asked for more, it was prudent for the board to give them more, because the village had made a mistake on that. This covers the part when the village doesn't make a mistake.
And-
There was no mistake by the village.
Pat, in that situation, did it actually get to the board, or did you just acknowledge the mistake and pay him?
No, it came to the board.
It did come to
But
the
that
board and was
that
voted
the one
upon.
that we didn't, that there wasn't a quorum there to vote on?
No, that was probably before you were on the board.
Yeah, it was before-
It was a person over on Teal Drive. And they had a mismatch meter with a mismatch ERT, and it had been that way for 11 years.
And we were inaccurately measuring
Oh, that was the
water,
measuring of the
right?
water,
So,
right?
so that one, just to clarify though, that one came under a completely different section.
Right.
That came under 50.051, which allows the board to grant up to 100%, because that's an error in billing. That is not a water leak
So
adjustment.
that
why it
shouldn't
just never
really
happened.
be.
Right, that was a different
shouldn't-
scenario.
Yeah, that shouldn't be compared to this because it's a different scenario, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so okay. I just think that if, as being a member of the utility board, if I'm presented something, I'd like to have my guidelines a little bit more specific.
I think
In the
they're
ordinance?
crystal clear. You can give 50% or 0.
And Mr.
This was-
McCarthy is the one that told me
Miss
to
Judd.
take it to the utility.
Ms. Judd, please, this is a meeting of the board at this point.
But yeah, I don't think it's crystal clear.
That's fine.
I think I don't think it's crystal clear on this, because if we go back and change the wording in the handbook, then these rules could change and the ordinance still say the same at some point in time. So I think it's first, being a utility board member, it'd be nice to say in the book, in the ordinance, after it's met the three criteria, if there's a dispute, you can take it to the utility board, because if you go by the ultimate rules, it doesn't say anything about taking it to the utility board. So I would just like to say that's my point.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we have a resolution on the floor that, as the attorney, you want to summarize what you explained?
Yeah.
We don't need to.
What they're about to vote on?
Do we need to bring Brett back on?
He hung up, dude. He lost his chance, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm just saying,
I mean,
so
you
that
know,
we can acknowledge that he was on the phone, that he
would
dropped
be-
off, so I don't know what happened, but okay.
Okay. So the vote would be to do something in addition to what is in our ordinance as it's currently.
correct. It would be to
Yeah.
go above and beyond and go outside of the ordinance. That's correct.
Any further, I'm gonna make sure everybody is clear. Okay.
Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Nice.
No.
Trustee Try.
No.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes, based on the knowledge that I voted for it before.
Trustee Charo.
I'm not going to go outside of the ordinance on this one. So it'll be 50%. No.
No.
All right. I have a motion to bring the consent agenda to the floor.
I make the
Trustee Ferguson's made a motion, second by Trustee Charo. Yes?
Yes.
Any discussion regarding the warrants or the minutes? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Warrants, minutes.
Trustee Ferguson.
Yes.
Trustee Nice.
Yes.
Trustee Try. Yes.
Any public comments on any village business?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. Mr. McCarthy is the one that told me to take it to the utility committee. The understanding, I've gone to many, many, many utility committee meetings. The understanding was that the amount the person was paid was going to be determined by the utility committee to take it to the board. That's exactly what happened. The amount of the water usage changed the day that they changed the meter. I know that there's never a faulty meter. I know they never go bad. I know they always say that it's less that it's going to read rather than more. But it's very strange that it all quit after the meter was changed. And that's the fault of the village, because it's the village's meter. That's like saying, well, my tire's flat, the car's gonna go slower, but it's not my tire's fault. I mean, it just makes no sense that it changed. Now, granted, I changed 2 toilets. I got the higher ones and I got the ones that use less water. I had been wanting to do that for quite a while. Toilets that I had are, Lord, 35 plus years old. Can you imagine what color one of them might have been? My bathrooms needed to be updated. But you use that against me also because JD's report said that the usage changed after the toilets were changed. They weren't changed immediately when that meter was changed. They were changed totally about a month and a half after. I mean, a plumber doesn't come out one day and come and do something the next day. It takes a few weeks in there it took me a few weeks to decide I was even going to do it. So it wasn't an immediate change. And in my opinion, it is the village's fault because in my opinion, it was the meter. And meters do go mad. That's just like saying, well, my gas tank's going to be okay because my gas says it's full. When it's an error in the reading of equipment. I mean, I think it's wrong to change your resolution after the fact rather than before the fact. And you can't say that this is the first time this has been brought to the village because it's not the first time. There's many people out there that suck it up. And if you'll ever go back and look at your utility bills, you always have at least 1 month that has a high spike in your water usage. Well, you suck it up and you pay it. Why not? You know, maybe I did use it. Maybe I did this and that. But it's very wrong to change the resolution after the fact. And I can't believe that any of the ones that are on the utility committee felt that they were doing something wrong against the resolutions. And to change it after the fact is totally wrong, in my opinion. I'm sorry, but I just felt, and I do feel, that I've been mistreated. And I'm sorry that you don't see it.
Any further comments on village business? Hearing none, scheduled meetings is as posted. There's no need for an executive session this evening. No further business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion. Second by Trustee Ferguson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting stands adjourned. Have a good evening, y'all.
All right.